This week on Real News Podcast, we discuss Old Man's Journey and Membrane. After our break and some indie gaming news, we discuss our little trip to Minneapolis. Stay tuned, sit back, and relax. Welcome to Real Dudes Podcast. This is your host, Kyle, and we have a packed out show starting with Karrington.
Hey.
And Cody.
How's it going, y'all?
And Drew.
Ahoy.
Drew, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to acknowledge it. Just moving on.
I mean, was that kind of a pun in itself?
Yeah, it was like the lowest of the low, though. I mean,
Okay,
come on.
Whatever.
What about and? Is and all right?
And? I wouldn't call him Ann. I wouldn't do that.
And
All right.
D?
Still no. We'll just call him Andrew.
All right. Well,
All right.
Andrew.
So we've got a packed show today. Lots of news. We are covering 2 games today, and maybe a couple other things. But before we get into that, we do have a new sponsor, and that's Studio. And I'm going to hand this over to Cody so he can tell you a little bit more about them.
Yeah, we got a sponsor coming all the way from Sweden called Studio. Studio inspires to bridge the gap between styles and tech when it comes to their headphones. And personally, from what I saw, I think they achieved it. They were kind enough to send us a pair of their wireless premium on-ear headphones called the Regent. And after having them for about a week, I am a fan. Tested them with a majority of the music I listened to, and playback was great. Podcasts and YouTube videos and all that. I think the Studio headphones shined. So if you want to check them out for yourself, head over to studio.com, look at their lineup of great-looking products, and use code RDP for 15% off of your order.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. Like I said, we have a packed out show. The 2 games that we are covering today are Old Man's Journey and Membrane. And then we have quite a bit of news, and we all went on a trip this past weekend.
So through the
sky,
little
Einstein.
And yes, off to a musical. We went to Minneapolis to join in on the Game Informer 300th issue release and check out the office there and hunt for shamrock shakes.
How'd that hunt go, Kyle?
And we'll continue this later.
Okay.
We should go ahead and jump into our game since we're covering 2 of them. Let's see. About 2 to 3 weeks ago, I like to get on my Switch and look at upcoming releases on the marketplace to see what's coming out, and I saw Old Man's Journey there on the eShop, and decided to contact the developer, Broken Rules, and see if they would be kind enough to send over a couple review codes for us to try out. Thankfully they did, and it is a good game. It's basically you play as this old man. Surprise, right?
Surprise. Please tell us more. Do you think a lot of thoughts as well?
Oh, jeez.
I was thinking a lot of thoughts when I was playing through this. So you play as an old man. I can't give a whole lot of spoilers or too much detail about the game because it is the kind of game where you play through it once and you're done. There's zero replayability to this unless you just really enjoy the puzzles. But you are kind of going on this cross-country trip to kind of fix ties between the family that you had previously, while discovering like your own inner feelings. It's a very emotional game, very uplifting game. I think in a way, like it made me, I guess, happy playing it. Just with the music, it was very like small Italian village, I guess is how I would describe it.
Okay.
Like with an accordion, and I don't know. It just, when I was playing it, sitting there, I felt happy. I felt this warm feeling in my heart. The way that the game plays out, as you're traveling across the country, you have to manipulate the map. So there are multiple layers to the map. And so, say to your left, there's a lower hill, and to the right, there's a taller hill.
Mm-hmm.
You have to manipulate that lower hill to match up to the taller hill so you can cross to the next area. Well, as later levels come into play, you have multiple layers, and as your character is moving, you have to keep moving those multiple layers to get across to the next area. At first, it wasn't very challenging. As it goes on later throughout the game, it gets pretty challenging. I don't think I got stuck any longer than 5 to 10 minutes on one puzzle. But it was really a cool way of a puzzle game. I guess I've never seen anything like that. I don't know if you guys had seen any gameplay at all of this.
I saw very little gameplay of it. I looked it up just to get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Did this game, I guess what I'm looking for, did it invoke any emotions in you? Because it seems like it's
most
to be
certainly.
an emotional story.
Yeah, because like the title is, it's Old Man's Journey. So you're going on a journey to kind of fix things that happened in your past, and as you go from area to area, you get flashbacks of what happened, within the last, say, 30 to 40 years of your life, dealing with family members and whatnot. So for me, it definitely did strike an emotional. I guess you could say it pulled on my heartstrings a little bit, especially at the end. It was a sad ending, yet it was satisfying. I feel like the way they told the story, there's zero dialogue at all in the game, which, to tell a story without any dialogue, that I think that is an accomplishment in itself. And also to keep me entertained throughout the game with the puzzles. The only complaints that I had with it, like I said, the music was calming, but it was very repetitive. So if you are stuck on a puzzle for a period of time, you kind of want to pull out your hair because it's just kind of on a constant loop.
So it's either calming or absolutely not.
Yeah, if you don't progress, or you put the game on pause, or you just let it sit, the music does become annoying. I know Jen was sitting there, and I was just playing through an area, and she's like, what is this music? It's just constantly playing. And you progress through the area, and there's some different types of the music changes a little bit. My biggest problem, I started playing the game on TV, so my Switch was docked.
Okay.
And so in order to manipulate the map around, you have a cursor on the screen, and you click on the piece of the map that you want to move, and then either with whatever direction your Joy-Con is, it'll move it. So it's using the motion sensors in it, undocked.
Okay.
So from where I was, the cursor was going all over the screen. I couldn't get like a steady flow of moving the map around to where I needed to be without it being annoying. And I think that took away from my personal enjoyment and also the playtime. I feel like it made the game longer than what it should have been.
So how long was it, would you say? Would you say an average playthrough would be?
2 hours.
Okay, so it's not extremely long. So
bad.
I do have another question, though.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say this, not as far as maybe the game itself is concerned, but maybe story-wise, would you say it's on the level of maybe Unravel?
Yes, because I kind of felt the same with Unravel. Unravel was it pulled heartstrings Um, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to get too far into it.
Okay.
The way that the game sounds and kind of tells a story, uh, I could see how it would be relatable to Unravel. And if you like Unravel, then this is a game that I would suggest trying out. Different puzzle style, but as far as the story goes and the music and everything, it's pretty similar. But going back to the controls real quick, I took it to work the next day, and playing it in handheld mode is 100 times better.
So the handheld was definitely, because that's when we were on our trip to Minneapolis. That's how I saw you playing. It was handheld mode.
Yeah, because it doesn't use the motion sensors; it uses the thumbsticks to move around the map, and you can do touchscreen too. But yeah, biggest complaints: the docked, playing it docked, and then also the music can get kind of repetitive. And then also replayability. I really don't think there's much replayability to the game. But I still think, if you are wanting an emotional game, a good puzzler, and a good story in general, this is a game that you do want to pick up. Definitely. And that's Old Man's Journey by Broken Rules. So yeah, it's worth it.
So on a scale, what would you give it then?
I think a pretty good score for this would be about an 8.
Oh, an 8. So that's better than average.
That's pretty good.
It's I couldn't find there was nothing in the game in itself that I could really complain about. Now if playing it docked or undocked, still using motion controls, then this game would drop down drastically. But it plays really good in handheld. So yeah.
Very nice. I might have to check this out because I meant to check it out on our Minneapolis trip, but it was a pretty crazy trip, as we will get into later.
Yep.
But it seemed to be an interesting game because as soon as you finished it, that was satisfying.
Yeah.
I
I
was just gonna say real quick,
did.
thank you for Broken Rules for supplying us as a review copy.
Yeah.
Because we don't get review copies very often.
Yeah, that was very awesome. I was gonna say I didn't really know how I felt about the game in itself until till the end, because I didn't know where it was gonna go, and it kind of threw me for a curveball at the end. So that's what I really did appreciate about the story in it, is that it kind of twisted things just a little bit at the end. I know a couple of you guys have been playing another game on the Switch called Membrane.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we, talk about Membrane, I just want to say it's a huge shout out to Jessica and Seth, because they're the developers of this game. They actually contacted us, and so then they supplied us with 2 copies to go ahead and play through and talk about it on today. And actually, they will be on the show at some point because we asked them for an interview, so they will also be on the show to talk about Membrane, because I do have a lot of questions about this game as far as design and things like that, because it's very trippy. It's a very trippy game, but Andrew, you played more than I did, so I think you should talk about it.
No, I was actually really impressed. I know when I think you had started playing it before I did, and I know you'd commented on it's primarily a platform puzzle game, and I would say leaning more towards the puzzle side. There's some platforming in it, but anyway, it's. I just think, in short, I think that it was awesome. Actually, it's pretty difficult, and I know Karrington, you and I were discussing that early on. And when you start out, the first 6 or 8 levels, they're pretty much just getting you into the mechanics, and it's they pretty much have the training wheels on, and it's pretty easy. But as soon as you get through that section, they ratchet up the difficulty pretty considerably, and a lot of it I think is just I suppose you never know, but I'm positive just about every one of those levels, there's multiple ways to solve the puzzles. Basically, all you're trying to do is just navigate your little character through this gigantic underground cave system, I believe. So at least that's what it looks like. And basically, you start off on one side of the map and you try to navigate to the other side. Usually, there's a few collectibles in each level that you're trying to also that you can choose to get or not. But you do have to get a certain number of them to continue to advance. But anyway, like I said, I would say there was a couple times it really varied, and I think a lot of times that's how you think. Like some puzzles, like it just kind of matches up like really easily. I think probably with some people, just the way they tackle things, and so like I found myself with some levels I was breezing through them in a couple minutes at most. And then there was a handful, I think maybe 2 or 3 that I remember that I was probably stuck on for like half an hour at least.
I think I remember one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was well, that one, I don't want to spoil anything on this one in particular. Let's just say most of them, like at least from what I remember, well, I know it's just, I just played it a few days ago, but you were like building bridges and stuff because your character can like shoot out these little cubes that you can use to create like stairs for yourself or like a bridge, several things like that. And then he also can conversely shoot these little triangle pieces that essentially cut the cubes. And like say if you make because you only have a limited number of these building cubes to get around and navigate the environment. So like say if you build a bridge to cross a chasm, you will want to destroy that bridge once you get on the other side, a lot of times at least, in order to get part of your reserves back, because you might need it further, to get further through the room. Anyway, but that's typically how much those levels go. Is you're really dependent on some combination of building with those cubes and destroying with the little triangle pieces, or occasionally you can use the little triangle pieces to manipulate other objects in the map. But this one that took me the longest was you basically have to balance on this giant green ball that's in like floating in this lake of like pink acid or whatever, because all I know that is as soon as you touch it, you die. Like not even like, oh, you have 2 seconds to get out. Like the instant you touch it, your character just evaporates. So, and that was very different from any of the other levels that I played. And so it just kind of took me a while to realize like, holy crap, like I have to balance across this, go through this moat of death on this teeny tiny, well, it's a relatively big ball, but very minor mistakes and you instantly end up falling in. So anyway, that one, I guess like I said, it was one of those things I didn't think of it at first that was even an option. And then even once I figured out that was the play, it took me like probably at least a good 10 or 15 minutes once I was positive that was the way to do it to make it work.
Many times of holding yourself back from throwing your Switch out the car.
Oh yeah, dude, there was totally, like I said, I was definitely just like in my mind, like I rolled down the window very calmly and just like frisbeed it out, and I'm like, well, and I beat it. But like, take that, Switch. That's right. Make me look stupid. I'll show you. But no.
Yeah, I would definitely say anyone listening out there, definitely check out Membrane. It's on the Nintendo Switch. But be warned, this game is not easy.
It's not. No, I don't know. I think that for me, and I guess it would all depend. I was really pleased with the difficulty. I don't like games that are just like, once again, I think I've said this before. I don't like games that are difficult just for difficulty's sake, or because they have jacked up controls, something like that, where like they intentionally make sloppy controls to make life hard. I think that's just stupid. So like the controls are tight, like the in-game, I don't know, the physics, if you will, like, the system, it's all logical and translates from level to level. So, I mean, it's really like mechanics wise and just, general setup, it's great. So I really enjoyed I embraced the difficulty on this one, because I think it was really more just about creatively tackling each level, and some were more apparent as to what to do than others. But once again, like I said, that's my biggest thing. Like I said, just don't make sloppy controls, and everything in this was really tight and smooth. So hats off to him. As far as story goes, like Kyle on the other game, on Old Man's Journey, there's really not a lot of story to this that I got out of it. Art style's really cool, a lot of bright colors.
And I will say also that's what jumped out to me was the art style as soon as you open up the game. I'm like, yeah, that's when I say this game is trippy. Like, I feel like if you're on drugs, this is what it's like, as far as like what you see and
Yeah.
stuff.
A lot of bright greens, a lot of bright pinks,
A
and
lot of pools of pink acid.
Yeah.
yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
of death.
Alright.
But,
So you mentioned there's like it's heavy platformer. I mean, do you encounter any enemies or any kind of like opposing forces in this game, or is it just strictly get from one point to the next point?
as far as I did not beat it 100% as of yet. I'm still in the process of playing it because, as was pointed out, it is a bit difficult. The only like, and I think I'll see what you think, Carrington. The only enemy to me is like one of the normally like the collectibles are just kind of like floating somewhere in the level, and once as long as you can figure out how to get to them, they're just yours automatically. But a small percentage of the collectibles are these little mushrooms, like these sentient mushrooms.
Okay,
That,
so this is really getting into drugs.
Yes, that's a very, very solid point. I suppose I hadn't thought of that. I should have, but yeah, and these mushrooms basically like walk back and forth in a given area, and if they see you, which is basically it's like line of sight. If you're in their line of sight, like then they will basically shut down, and you cannot hit them and do anything. So you basically have to figure out a way to angle yourself where you can hit them with like your little cubes or your little triangles a few times while they're still like walking back and forth. But like I said, they can't see you. So you basically either have to like bounce off of the environment, bounce something like off the environment, and hit them at an angle, almost like a trick shot, so to speak. Or sometimes like if you just get the angle perfectly, you can just kind of stand back at a certain level and just kind of arc a shot at them. But that's the closest thing I would call an enemy. What about you, Carrington?
Yeah, I have to agree because I mean, you can touch them, you can jump on them, they won't do anything to you. But like I say, they have these little orbs that you're trying to collect, so that's the only thing. That's the reason for trying to tip them over, I guess, and try and grab that orb that they have, because you need a certain amount of orbs to move on to the next section of the game. So each section has probably, I'd say, what would you say, probably about 10 levels or so. I mean, around there, roughly around there.
I'd say if you were just going to, yeah, it varies, but I'd say as an average, yeah, that's a solid average, 10 per section. I think there's like 6 or 8 sections.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Another thing that I was thinking about was with the game being difficult, it's kind of common nowadays for video games to hold your hand. Did you feel that at all this game, or did it just drop you in and say, have fun?
It drops you in, like even the tutorial, like the quote unquote tutorial levels. It doesn't tell you what to do. You just do it, and then you're just supposed to learn the mechanics of the game as you progress. Okay. Is that right, Andrew? If I remember right, like it doesn't. I mean, there's some small stuff like you press this button, this will happen, and you're like, oh, okay. But there's no like actual tutorial really that tells you what to do.
Yeah, I don't even know if there was that. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much drops you in. But the good news is like the mechanics are like. They're very solid and they're pretty basic. I mean, I think most people, anybody who's got any gaming experience, as soon as they drop you in a game, you're like, you start pressing buttons and see what happens. And I'd say that, if you have any gaming experience at all, even if I'm 99% sure there was no, like I said, tutorial that was just as such, press A to do this, B to do that kind of thing. But you should be able to figure it out in like 30 seconds to a minute as to what everything does. And then when they introduce a new thing to you, it becomes, you might, it's still a button you've probably already messed with, but it just, a lot of it's pretty clear. I guess it kind of is, it holds your hand without like insulting your intelligence, I guess you'd say.
Without throwing a leash around your neck.
So yeah, I would say that that's the case. And like I said, they do a good job of like I said, just as soon as you get your feet under you, they just throw you into the fire pretty much. As far as once you've mastered the basics. So no, I'm a big fan of the game. I at first like Carrington kind of scared me when he was like, yeah, I don't know, man, it's pretty tough, and like, oh well, we'll see. But once again, I think it's tough in the right way. Like I said, if it's just like. Meant to be infuriating just by design, I cannot stand that. You can tell that was not their intention at all. The designers, you can tell they must be pretty smart people because they had it's some pretty neat puzzles, and I like the fact that I know there's several things that I solved that was not in quote the traditional way. So it's not you're not locked into like this is the only way to figure this puzzle out. Like
Yeah.
if you look at it and you're like, well, if I put this here and I put that there and I shoot this, then this will probably work. It probably, you know, and if you're getting a feel for the game, that's probably a route you can go. It might not be the easiest route, it might not be the best, or it might even be better than their intended route. I think that they pretty much just said, like, you know, let's set this. I feel like when they discuss these puzzle designs for each room, they're like, all right, this is the way we know they can do it, but with the tools they have, I'm sure there's other ways to get it done. You know, I'm pretty sure like they were like, as long as we know we gave them one way to do it, you know, let's see what people come up with, you know, is otherwise. So
Yeah, Membrane is certainly a game that will mess with you. But, you know, there are certain games that, such as, I'll just throw it out there, Dark Souls. You know, everyone talks about, you know, how difficult it is, but a game like that is difficult because it's just trying to be difficult without, you know, it's frustratingly difficult kind of thing. But whereas Membrane, it tests your mind and your skills in a way. And like as Andrew was saying, like it's not difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's difficult because it's trying to make you think outside the box and trying to get you to think about certain things. And then you feel like you're the smartest person on earth when you solve the puzzle. And it doesn't feel like, oh, once you conquer a certain thing, like, oh great, I conquered this and now I have to conquer this other hard thing and it's going to take me another hour, 2 hours to conquer. And it's just, you know, to me that with very little reward, games like that aren't necessarily fun. But Membrane is fun, but it is frustratingly difficult first, and then it's fun when you figure it out.
I will say, just like if anybody does decide to pick it up after listening to this, which I would highly recommend, don't assume that like each level gets progressively or successively, however you want to put it, harder. Because like that, like if you do that, inevitably, like within the first 10 to 15 of the harder levels, you will quit because you'll be like, wow, if this like, you know, if this is just quite the next step, like I'm out. Like that's not the case. I really do think that it's about how you think. I'm sure that some of the levels that I struggled with a little bit, somebody else would hop in and crush in like 2 minutes, and I'd feel like an idiot. And conversely, I'm sure there's ones that like was breezing through that people would be like, "What the crap, dude?" So it's the level design is varied, and the puzzles, like they all, you know, you can tell when you get that first initial like jump, you can tell that occurs. But as far as like each level does not scale and just get harder and harder and harder. It's because like I had ones where I'd get stuck, you know, for a half hour, and then I'd get into like the next 3, 4, 5, and just boom, boom, boom. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you do get stuck on one, don't just assume that that's as far as you can make it in the game. It's like just tough it out, and you'll probably get through the next several with no significant struggle or difficulty. So like, I don't know. I just felt that was important to say, because for myself, there's a couple times I'm like, well, this is probably it for me. But after you get, you know, like this is as far as my dumb self can get. But if you can get through some of those harder levels, it's not going to be like just as bad or worse on each successive level. It varies.
Yeah.
So that sounds rewarding, especially, you know, you have a few easy levels and there's a real challenging level, and then it pays off to beat that. Then you give yourself a little break before the next, you know, big one comes up.
Yeah,
for sure. To conquer.
And I will say, you know, while playing Membrane and watching you play Membrane as well, Andrew, that I do feel like that was definitely the thing where there were levels I was stuck on, you breezed right through, and then vice versa. Just from you saying it. Like I think I remember one level in particular, and I was like, I didn't want to say it. You're like, I mean, I'm stuck here. I'm like, yeah, I figured this out. But then when you say, oh yeah, I finished that level, and you're like, I was like, oh crap, I was stuck on that for like an hour.
Yeah, it's definitely depends on what kind of thinker you are. And like I said, if you process things differently, you'll definitely finish puzzles at different rates from other people.
Well, sweet. Yeah, sounds like a good game.
It is. I was, as far as a puzzle game goes, it's really good. So you'll find that out when I give my rating here in a minute, okay. Or if we're to that point.
yeah. Let's hear it. So what would you rate Membrane on the Switch?
Honestly, just like talking about it now and just discussing it for this review process, I'm almost get excited talking about it, especially because if you're in the mood for a puzzle game, it's awesome. So this might be the highest rating I've given a game. But fear not, fear not. No, the curse of the Kraken is not coming. No.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Oh,
Nice.
Very nice.
I was impressed with it. I really was. So yeah.
Membrane from Perfect Hat, from a couple, Jessica and Seth, gets a 9 out of 10 from Andrew. Is that correct?
Yes, a 9 out of 10. That's definitely it's the best puzzle game I've played in a long time.
That's awesome.
And I will say, too, that something that we did not talk about that I will say real quick, that it takes place inside of a person's head. So each little section is a different part of the head. You know, you start with the brain, then the ear, nose, and stuff like that. So I don't know how... That's part of also like the trippy part, because each cutscene is just like zooming out and zooming in and doing some weird stuff. That's awesome. But Andrew, you are farther than I am, so you are definitely more capable of giving it a rating, more so than me.
It's like I'm actually I didn't expect to give it that kind of a rating when I started out, but the more I played it and just the more we're discussing it now, like it's just an awesome game, man.
Yeah, that's cool. Definitely one that I want to check out.
Yeah.
Sometime this year.
And I will say, because for the most part, Andrew, you started playing it, like you downloaded it at my place right before the Minneapolis trip, and then you played it because, I mean, it was a 12-hour drive, so you played it in the car quite a bit.
Yeah, it was... I guess we should address the length. On the length of it, like, I'm not 100% through it, but just kind of, once again, it's one of these games that... because of the fact that the difficulty is kind of across it's difficult, consistently, but it can become particularly difficult depending on how you view things. Like I said, from puzzle to puzzle, I guess it's kind of tough to gauge exactly, but I could see, I don't know, like this is a bit of a range, but I'd say like maybe 5 to 8 hours. I guess I haven't gotten through it yet, so that might be a little I may be underestimating depending on what happens towards the very end of the game, but I got through a pretty good chunk of it, and just kind of at the rate I was going, I think I probably got probably got 4 hours or so in it, and I'd say I based on what I'm seeing, I'd say I'm halfway plus through it. So anyway, but pretty decent little amount of length as far as, once again, I don't know if you could beat every level in 2 minutes, if you're just one of those freaks who
Run
can
right through it.
just like beast through every puzzle,
Yeah.
then it might be just a matter of a couple hours. But I'd say for the average person, you'd at least be 6 or 8 hours to beat it.
I'd say that's about correct.
That sounds like a pretty good chunk of time for a game, especially like an indie puzzle game.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have
cool.
Jessica and Seth on the show so we can really talk about it, because I have a ton of questions about the art style. And
You can just dive into it.
No, it's pretty much. I've several as well. It's going to be a cool interview.
Awesome. Well, so before we go into our break here, our sponsor again, Karrington.
Yep, this episode is brought to you by Studio. And I'm always looking for some new headphones to add to my collection. And I think I found some great ones that I won't be switching away from for quite some time. I'm talking about using Studio's Regent headphones, the premium on-ear model, because I'm not about those earbuds. I'm all about the on-ear stuff. So with the impeccable clarity and the instrumental tones and well-balanced sound, these are wireless headphones with about 24 hours of active battery life and 20 days of standby life. So it will last you quite some time when you're on the go. And you can also, if it's running low on batteries, there's even a cord you can use for it, so you don't even have to use up the batteries, which is fantastic and perfect. You can head over right now to Sudio.com. That's SUDIO.com, Sudio, and use promo code RDP, as in Real Dudes Podcast. And you can get 50% off of your order. Once again, that's Sudio.com, promo code RDP for 15% off. Enjoy the break.
If you like video games, debates, and silly banter, you'll love Gamerheads Podcast.
Outside of your store, because I do feel like your store knows its identity. I do. I think that you guys know what you are. No?
Not always.
Really?
He sells fidget spinners.
Well,
Not anymore.
I mean, for a while. but-
not
I mean,
anymore.
Not,
We were
that-
experimenting
not
with our
anymore.
That's what I'm saying, though. You were just experimenting.
golf was made by a Japanese guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Go Iwata.
yeah.
Oh, the game.
Yeah, not the
Okay.
sport.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
like, huh.
Well, speaking of Nintendo,
Follow Gamerheads on Podbean at gamerheadspodcast.podbean.com.
Hey everyone, Karrington here, co-host of Real Dudes Podcast. I'm here to tell you about our new affiliate, Podbean. That's right, if you're looking to get into a podcast, you can get your first month service for free. You can do so by heading to the website, podbean.com/RDP, or using the promo code RDP, and you can get their first month's premium service for free. They are our personal podcasting hosts, and we love them. We wouldn't be here talking about it if we didn't love them so much. So head on over to podbean.com/RDP or promo code RDP and get that first month service for free. And as always, have a rad day.
We here at Real Dudes want to give a huge shout out to Guitar Man for letting us use his music on this episode. You can find more of his music on SoundCloud, and be sure to give him a follow on Twitter at IamGuitarman. That is GITARUMAN. Thanks, and let's get back to this episode.
And we are back from that break. Hope you enjoyed hearing those cool ads, because I know you love the elevator music that plays in them. Anyways, so we've got a pretty good chunk of news before we get into our road trip story here. Playdead Studios announced that we are getting an Inside Collector's Edition.
We, as in
That's
Real Dudes
right.
Podcast?
No, just the general public. Just the general public. As you know, Inside is this game that I enjoy slightly,
Just a little bit. You've only mentioned it once or twice.
maybe just once or twice.
Exactly. That's what I thought.
So I just want to read this to you guys real quick, because I was super excited when I heard this, and then I was taken back real hard.
Oh yes, yes. Tell us, Kyle.
All right, so this is so the details on, from what I've read here, it's a limited time release. It definitely includes inside copy of the disc. It also includes other stuff, and it's limit 2 per customer. Guys, this collector's edition can be yours for a small price of $375.
Oh my gosh. Does it say what it's come with besides the game?
No.
It comes with the
Nope.
game and other stuff.
Oh,
other
okay,
stuff.
other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something. And I'm shocked that they would limit you to 2 per customer. I'm sure
No.
people would want to buy more. I mean, my goodness. I was thinking of buying 4, and then I'm like, well, shoot, 2 per customer. I'm screwed.
So, what would it take for you to spend $375 on this? I mean,
Okay, so you know how on Patreon they give
don't
you
know.
like incentives, like, oh, you're gonna have lunch with the developers and insight on the next game, and you can even give out suggestions, and we'll put it in the next thing, and you can have X, Y, Z, A, B, C. I might spend $375 for that if I had just the money laying around.
Yeah, it'd have to be something like that, like something where I got like access to the actual developer and could have some influence on either like DLC that would for that game that would be coming out, or for like something from the for the next game that would be upcoming. And obviously, I realized I couldn't write the whole story or anything, but some small but still significant, I guess you could say, and to at least something to me that I could point to, like, oh, cool, I was involved in that kind of thing.
yeah.
It'd have to be something like that for me to drop that kind of cash on a game for sure.
And I will say too, because Playdead is so private about everything they do. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they don't even do interviews. So
No.
when they announce things,
And I've asked.
Oh yeah, I know you've asked. So if they did come up with some sort of incentive that was something like that, where you could like maybe tour the studio or something, that would be huge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Kyle's like, oh my god, man, should I drop the money? Should I drop it?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I think what I would have to get is a physical copy of the game plus
$400 cash.
plus $400 cash. So they're
Pretty
paying
much.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just too much. I consider it as a gamble because you don't know what you're getting with it.
No, you don't. The press release for it, it's literally looks like a just like a present, like a
Yeah,
Is it at least a cool box?
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, maybe the other stuff we don't know. It could be like a mail order bride or something. For all those lonely people out
I mean,
there.
I am single at the
Or-
moment. I'll take a mail order bride.
Could be or a part-time model.
Part time.
I mean, hey, if she's Eastern European, those are some beautiful women out there.
Oh boy.
But then Liam Neeson's coming for you, dude. You
Oh
know it.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's kind of a special set of skills, son. Don't do it. It's like you've seen how the last 3 guys that went for him. You're just saying.
I'm guessing one of the things that my mind went to when I heard 375 is maybe you get your name on the credits for their next game, like a special thanks to.
Which
And maybe
means-
it's kind of like a Kickstarter for their next game in a way, quote unquote Kickstarter. I doubt they need money for a Kickstarter, but just kind of
Kind of
being
spitballing
one
here.
of those. Yeah.
take more than my name in the credits for me to drop that kind of
Yeah.
cash. But
Yeah,
whatever.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's see what else is going on in the news here. We had Nintendo Direct today.
Yes. Oh my
So
gosh.
today is March
yes.
8th. Before we get into the AAA news, we'll discuss some smaller things first. Little Nightmares is going to release on the Switch. Super good game. If you like Inside, this is definitely one that you need to check out. If you're craving more of that dark 2D side-scrolling kind of horror game, this is coming with the, I guess you would call it the Definitive Edition or the Complete Edition. You get the DLC with it.
Yep.
And then Undertale was also announced for release on Switch. I don't have the dates for those.
The dates were not announced for those. I don't think, if I remember
Okay.
right, because I did watch the direct. I think
I
I think they were general stuff, if I remember right. Like,
Yeah.
oh hey, this is coming out spring, kind of thing.
Yeah, it'll probably be in the next
Within the
month
next
or
few
two, I'd
months,
say.
because the Nintendo Direct nothing was next year. It was all this year stuff.
Yeah.
So it's definitely coming out within the next few months. I would say May
Um,
at the latest.
And then also we have Castle of Heart. This I don't think this was on the Nintendo Direct,
No,
but
no, it was
it
not.
is a game that is being released on Switch here very soon. And it's another 2D side scroller, but it's got like Metroidvania kind of style look to it with Dark Souls mixed with it. So it's like back in medieval times. You're fighting monsters, and then it looks really challenging, almost like roguelike. And that's as far as I know about it. But I definitely want to check it out when it releases. And then another weird announcement: Fortnite is being released on mobile.
Yeah. I don't know how that's gonna work.
How's that going to play?
I
I don't
I don't
know.
think it's going to go well.
Why not,
Yeah,
Cody?
I don't.
The building aspect is going to lose all momentum. That's what sets it apart from other battle royales at the moment. And on console, building is tough enough. On mobile, it's going to be. I feel
Well, and
like
what
a
about like
detrimental.
sniping and stuff? Won't that be like impossible?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see that.
Pinch your fingers to zoom in, zoom out.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't
Yeah, I
really.
don't-
Only for those with dexterous fingers.
I don't see how battle
I mean-
royales play on mobile.
What people are wanting that on their phone?
I mean, Fortnite is coming to the Switch. I'm like, I mean, that to me, that's as
I
mobile.
can see
as you
that.
can get. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like actual mobile phones, I just don't. For some reason, like the way the game looks, I don't know how a phone can run that.
I don't either. And yeah,
The 8-bit version of Fortnite.
something yes, side scrolling. Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely was a surprise. I saw that tweet today, and I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work out. Bevontule. So they had a live stream last week of their game for the Kickstarter, and I got to watch some of the gameplay. The game looks awesome. If you haven't listened to our interview, we got to talk to developers last year about the game and what it is. It's kind of a throwback to old JRPGs.
Yeah,
But it definitely looks it's gorgeous looking. The graphics, it looks real good, beautiful. I was watching some of the battles take place in the game, and it reminded me of a mix between like a Final Fantasy, but with more mobility in the game. Like you can kind of run around in this little within this little boundary of an area. But I was talking to them through Facebook and asking them, how long is this game going to be? Are you expecting it to be on consoles? Right now, they are looking at a Steam release. They definitely want to release it on consoles in the future, which, with the way that Nintendo is accepting indie developers, they are hoping to get something set up with Nintendo and have it on the Switch, which would be awesome. And then, as far as, JRPGs, I remember them being like 30, 40 hours plus games. This, they said, you could possibly 100% it within 20 hours, which is still a pretty huge chunk for an indie RPG game. So I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully we can get them back on the show to talk about Bevontule some more.
For sure. And Kyle, I just want to make a small correction. You said we interviewed them last year. We actually interviewed them back in 2016.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. It was almost 2 years ago.
I thought it was early 2017.
No, it was
Wow.
late 2016. It was like in August or September of 2016.
Okay. Wow.
Isn't that crazy to think about that? It's been
It
almost
is.
2 years.
It seems like it was just yesterday.
I know, right?
Wow, you're old.
I know. Gosh, don't
Yeah.
remind me. We had Caleb and Jake. I think they were in on that interview too, which was rare for them to be on interviews. But they were with us back in the day.
Yeah. Guys, Tequila Works got our plaque
Oh yeah.
for
that
Game
was
of the
cool.
Year.
I have to admit that was really cool to see them tweet that out and shouting us out like that.
Yeah.
I was speechless. I was like, oh, they got it. Because, I mean, we get stuff sometimes. I get notifications on my phone sometimes, from fellow podcasters and stuff, like when they tag us and post and stuff. So I thought it was one of them. But nope, it was Tequila Works, and one of their creators had shouted us out. And I'm like, oh, they finally got it. Because we talked about giving them a plaque back in December, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it's cool. Definitely cool to see some of the love given back. So the big announcement that I think everyone is excited for. It's not indie related, but we just so much love for this series. Super Smash Brothers announced for Switch release in 2018.
Oh my goodness! Because like I said, I watched the Nintendo Direct. I had chills literally the entire time because if you haven't watched the reveal trailer for Smash yet, I recommend you go out and watch it right now because you don't expect it to happen. So when I was watching the Nintendo Direct, it starts off with two Inklings, playing around, shooting each other from Splatoon and stuff. They're just running around shooting each other in this very generic space or whatever. And then it gets dark all of a sudden. They stop shooting each other and they turn around. And then the Smash logo appears. And I was going nuts in my apartment. I could not even believe, oh my gosh, this is Smash. This is Smash Brothers. And then, no gameplay is shown. It's literally just a reveal trailer. And just from the looks of it, I don't know if it's... I don't know. Jake and I were talking earlier today. We don't think it's a straight port from Smash 4 because... Link, it is clearly Breath of the Wild Link. It's not classic Link as you know him. It's clearly it's just the way the hair looks and stuff. You can tell that's Breath of the Wild Link. That's the look that Nintendo's pushing right now.
Yeah, I was just the way the trailer, and you see how the Inklings look back in fear. The logo, and then you see the silhouette of all the characters kind of piled underneath of it.
Because the crazy thing was the build up to that whole announcement, that reveal trailer. They were talking about Splatoon for probably a good 10 minutes, and they're like, "Oh, we have another announcement to make." It was just casual, "Oh, there's one more video we got to show you guys," and then you see the Inklings running around, and it's just "Oh, okay, it's more Splatoon news." Lame. Nope.
Yeah, they're good at doing that, like being real casual and then just throwing this giant announcement just out of nowhere at you. So that's I can't wait. I'm predicting it'll be out late this year. I'd say right before the holiday season.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing too. It said 2018 at the end. When I said, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting chills right now thinking about it because I was just talking with you, Cody. I was like, I need to brush up on my Smash Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And then Nintendo brings this up. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are the odds?
That's it, man. That's our news.
Ba ba da ba.
So guys, we went on a trip.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we did.
And it was probably the most exhausting trip I've ever been on.
I think all of us can agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, we went to Minneapolis.
Minnesota.
I don't really know how you guys want to do this. I mean,
I actually wrote down quite a few notes that I'm trying to access right now. I forgot to bring that up.
I'll just kickstart it.
Okay.
So Game Informer had their 300th issue release reveal party in Fulton Brewery at Minneapolis, and we decided to pack our bags up and go. So, you know, I left my house at about 8 o'clock Friday night, and I got to Karrington's midnight.
About 11:30.
Yeah,
11:30,
a little bit before midnight. And that's when the trip began. We all packed up into our mid-sized sedan, Hyundai Accent.
Yeah. Did we ever come up with a name for a Hyundai Accent?
POS.
I remember
Pretty
it. I
much.
remember Andrew's name for it. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't think there was one consensus.
Dedicated name
Yeah,
for
I know Betty White was thrown, but we were like, Betty White is too
Yeah.
classy for this car.
So true.
So we drove 700 some miles. Was it one way?
About 725 one way.
And we should get a real life achievement for not having cruise control.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Carrington. Who was responsible for that? Would you remember?
I don't know what you're talking about. You know, I just got a car.
I mean, I just
got
remember
a rental
that there was
car.
some reference to like, you know, getting the SUV, and then you're like, nah, man, I'm good. Just make sure it's got that XM radio, nothing else.
Well, see, okay, so this is what happened, right? I signed up for everything. Like, oh, hey, yeah, I just want a car. Just give it to me. So I go to Enterprise, and then they didn't really have a whole bunch of sedans, which is what I signed up for. And we have one sedan, but you can get an SUV if you want to. And I was thinking, you know, for the group, right? Because, you know, that's going to just waste more gas. I'm like, nah, fam, we don't need no SUV. Give me that sedan. And then I didn't even ask or anything. So I get in the car, drive it back to my place, right?
Yeah.
And then I think it was Cody. You asked, like, hey, is there cruise control? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It should. I mean, most modern cars have cruise control. So we go to the store before Kyle gets to my place to pick up a few things. There's no cruise control. I'm like, oh,
There's no
oh
cruise
gosh.
control.
So that was the beginning of our adventure. That was
Yeah.
the start.
12-hour trip, no
it's
cruise
gonna be
control.
Oh, man.
4 drivers.
4 drivers, yes.
You know, splitting it up wasn't so bad. I think if it was one person driving all the way there by himself to no cruise control, that would have been awful.
I guess it did help a little bit so that it was harder to doze off if you were the driver, because, you know, it'd be, I don't know, you definitely would catch yourself more. So I thought I was pretty alert whenever I was
I
driving.
found myself
Likewise.
speeding more. A lot more.
Oh, yes.
A
That is
lot.
true.
Oh,
That's
without
so
cruise
very
control?
true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm curious to ask if you can recall what was the fastest you were going when you looked down.
The fastest?
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
think
The
for me it was
fastest I went.
85.
That was 80, 85 for me too. Yeah, in that area.
The fastest I went was on my way from Carrington's back to my house Monday morning, and I
Oh,
won't
geez.
disclose that
Oh,
what
yeah.
speed I went, but it was the speed of I gotta wake up in 3 hours and go to work. But back to going, you know, heading there. Yeah, definitely having 4 drivers was the way to go. Just to, having 4 people in the car, we were able to keep each other awake. But with me behind the wheel, trying to get air, I think nobody had a problem falling asleep.
I think was fantastic too because we switched in the middle of Indiana somewhere on our way to Minneapolis, and I remember Kyle, you and I slept first while Andrew and Cody were up front, staying awake because Cody, you drove the first leg. And if you were dozing off when Kyle caught air in the middle of Chicago,
You weren't after that.
Not after that. You didn't trust Kyle driving anymore.
Yeah, unrelated note, like I think there and back I slept like a total of 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So that was not very much.
There with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, out of anywhere in that road, like I even tried to keep an eye on it on the way back home. There was nowhere that I could have been a potential ramp, but whatever I hit in the road there, I just remember
I'm
seeing both
positive
of
there
you
was
guys
a moment where like all the tires were off the ground.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I remember looking in the back and everybody's head was kind of like almost brushing or hitting the ceiling.
I'm sure that like somewhere Vin Diesel was proud in that moment. He felt it.
It's that moment when you're in the back of the school bus and it goes over like a little hump and you catapult because
Get launched.
all that. That was that moment.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, we got there. Let's see. We left 11:30. We got there about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But before that, though, I do want to point out we stopped in Wisconsin Dells.
Oh boy.
They had probably the most fancy McDonald's I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised
Which
by the Wisconsin gas station, how it has like a pile of cheeses and then a refrigerator full of 40 different kind of brats.
Yeah, that was crazy
In a
too.
gas station? It's just,
It's Wisconsin.
I guess so.
It's like when people come to West Virginia and there's a big pile of pepperoni rolls.
And just describe this McDonald's and why it was so fancy, by the way. It looked like a log cabin. Like when you go, like say Gatlinburg or something, and you get
like luxurious log
oh yeah,
cabin.
for sure. And you grab a cabin for you and your friends to go and stay for the weekend. This cabin was like if it didn't have the McDonald's logo anywhere near it, I would have never guessed it was a McDonald's. Because you walk inside, there's like chandeliers made out of like deer antlers and stuff. And there's an arcade room in there too. Not a playpen, it's an arcade room.
Yeah.
But
They had Guitar Hero and
I gotta point out, even for a fancy, super cool McDonald's, what did they not have there, Kyle?
Yeah, what was that?
well, I was gonna get that later
We'll
on.
get that- we'll get to that later.
There's
Aw,
this
it was a
thing
great
called Shamrock
lead-in.
Shake that. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I couldn't pass that up. Yeah, as you come to find out later, they do not have Shamrock Shakes.
Dun dun dun.
Done.
One of the only things I wanted this whole trip. Well, on the way home.
But before we get there, we should probably talk about Minneapolis first because
Yeah.
that was on the trip back. We tried to get Shamrock Shakes.
So we stayed at the most luxurious hotel in
Oh
Minneapolis.
my gosh.
It was wonderful.
It
was
for only
nice.
on what it was like $100 and some odd bucks for the night.
Yeah.
140 or 50.
It was 150
yeah,
a
including
night.
tax.
Yeah.
The hotel Minneapolis, right downtown in Minneapolis. That place was fancy.
And then we show up with joggers and jeans and backpacks and everything. It's like, yeah, we're out of place here.
I mean, there was like waterfalls and statues and marble ceilings and marble
Yeah,
flooring. Like, whoa.
Yeah. It was really nice. Get there and hop in the showers and
Go to the
get
brewery.
ourselves a little woken up and walk straight to the brewery.
Which was what,
Yeah.
probably about 11 blocks away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't
Which
too
felt
bad.
like 11
Oh,
miles.
I didn't think it was that bad.
it was a wonderful
until
walk.
Cody said,
after-
no, it's further down the road.
After sitting in a car for 12 hours, I enjoyed 11 block walk.
Yeah.
Likewise. And I will say, because Cody, you got us good on our way to Fulton's Brewery. Like, we were almost there, and Cody was just like, yeah, we still probably have about a few more blocks to go. And then the look on Andrew and Kyle's face was priceless when he said that. And when in reality, Fulton's was literally across the street.
Done me dirty.
Yeah, that wasn't very nice. Not nice at all. But yeah, we got to Fulton and we had a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I don't really know how to describe it. I mean,
It was a very
all-
small
all-
bar, which I was surprised about.
yeah,
And there were a ton of people there as soon as we showed up. But I mean, if you've listened to the show before, you know that we play Overwatch with Reiner and stuff. But one thing I can appreciate, like as soon as we walked in, Reiner recognized us and walked right up to us. And he was in the middle of talking to people, which I shouted them out on my personal stuff, like for the hospitality that him and as we'll get into, like Phil showed us, and it was really cool to.
Well, even
what were you gonna say?
Yeah, and then Andy McNamara,
Oh, yeah.
chief editor, he was like awesome too, dude. I mean, just super welcoming and friendly, and I think he was shocked that we had come from so far, and I
Yeah.
guess understandably so.
Yeah.
I will say that just the whole trip, like everybody that we interacted with, that we came to see, was like super duper friendly and hospitable, and just treated us like family. So yeah, I can't thank them enough.
yeah.
And I will say,
Yeah.
it sounds like Reiner talks about us also, because as soon as he introduced us, hey, these are the guys I play Overwatch with. Oh, you guys are from Ohio. I'm like, oh gosh. That was surreal.
Yeah. Yeah, that just seeing all the editors there and just the support from, people who read the magazine, just mingling around, hanging out, it was such a good environment.
Yeah,
And then they actually
I met a dude. I thought it was funny because I met a dude from Chicago while we were there, and then you guys asked, "Hey, Karrington, do you know that guy?" I was like, "Nope, I just met him." Shout out
new
to that
friends.
dude.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, unfortunately.
Oh no.
You're always making friends no matter where we are.
Yeah, you know how I be.
So
Yeah.
they the lead up to the reveal was going to be done on the podcast. So they had a whole live recording area set up to do an actual show. And I think that was probably one of my favorite things throughout the trip, was just seeing, because I listen to them. I try to listen to them every week, and actually being able to see them interact in person is just a whole different story.
I can agree with
It
that.
was just surreal. It was super cool, and you can really tell they love doing what they do.
for sure.
I appreciate that.
And it was just like I said, like you said, it was surreal. For example, Leo Vader, he's usually behind the scenes. You hear his voice, but you never actually see him. And to actually like meet him in person was just really cool. And it was one of the first people that Reiner introduced us to, because as soon as we got there,
Yeah.
Reiner started introducing us to people. The first people he introduced us to was Ben Hansen and Leo Vader, which was really cool. And it was just in a way, like in my head, that's how I pictured him. But at the same time, it was just like, man, this is Leo Vader. The voice.
No relation to Darth Vader.
no, of course.
Just
Yeah.
anybody who's who's curious, just so you guys know.
Not Darth, Leo Vader.
Or is he?
Dun dun dun.
And so they went through their show and they discussed, I can't remember exactly how many. It was either 4 or 6. I think it was 4 covers that they revealed as their 300th issue.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5. And 2, I will say too, like I had my Sonic hat on. And everywhere I went, every editor I talked to and person that worked for GI, they're like, "Oh man, Brian Shea's gonna be so jealous of that hat. You better hide it." I saw Brian Shea there several times. He never said a word, so he must not have been that jealous of it.
He was probably like, it's cool, but it'd have been cooler and more culturally relevant if it was a Mario hat or whatever.
Which I mean, we saw. I saw his desk. It was filled with Sonic stuff, so he's definitely a Sonic fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This had to get that
Fair
in there.
enough.
He probably has the same hat in his closet.
Oh, it's quite possible. Quite possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing that podcast was really cool in person.
And I like how they had they discussed the top 300 games, and then they open it up to the audience. And Karrington, you slid in there and asked your question.
Well, but yeah, right before I asked the question, if you go back and watch like the stream, because they stream the whole thing, I'm in the frame for a good like 5 minutes. I had no idea I was visible because I saw the camera and everything. I'm like, there's no way they can see me on camera right now. Like, just this is the way it was set up and stuff. And then, yep, there I am, and I
Bet you kind of felt foolish about picking your nose the entire time.
Yeah, you
I was
know,
gonna say the
nobody
same
knows.
thing.
you know, you got to do what you got to do when you don't think you're on camera, and right before you get on camera. Yeah, I did ask my question because so right before I asked my question. Because Kyle, you were trying to get me to say, hey, where's Insight on the list? Because they were asking the audience, like, hey, if you have your favorite game, shout it out. We'll tell you where it is on the list. And I was trying to shout out Insight because you asked me to ask about Insight, Kyle. But I could never get it to come out.
Yeah.
I can never be heard. How's that?
I don't know.
And I didn't want to say Beyond Good and Evil, which is my favorite game, because it's such a long title. And so right before I go on to... I asked my question. I text Reiner. I'm like, hey, man, this is a super self question. Is Inside or Beyond Good and Evil on the list? And then he responds. He said, Inside is. And I looked at him, and he gave me this look back like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, dang it. So I was like, I'm going to ask about Beyond Good and Evil because it deserves to be on the list. Because it was on the list for the top 200, but it wasn't on the list for the top 300.
Don't worry, Carrington. It was beyond this list. That's it.
So I get up there and it's. I know Andy, Brian Shea. I don't remember the third person, and there was Ben Hansen.
Was
sitting
Hillard
on
up
the
there?
table. What's that?
Was Kyle Hillard? Or
No. Kyle was other places, but it wasn't
Okay.
Kyle.
okay.
Yeah, Kyle Hilliard, who I really wanted to meet. He was there, but he wasn't at the table. So I asked, hey, I heard from an inside source that Beyond Good and Evil wasn't on the list. And they proceeded to tell me why it did not make the list, unfortunately, which I was still disappointed. But they had mad respect for it at the same time.
Almost as mad respect as they did for Wii Sports.
And missed.
Ooh, and missed.
I don't know how that made it on the list, but not Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah,
Wasn't it like
I don't either.
$2.99 or something like that?
Yeah,
Missed.
it was $2.99.
I think so. There was something really low.
It's rough. That's rough.
I don't understand. Like, even because Andy McNamara said he hated Myst, yet Myst made it. Which I don't understand because Myst is one of my is my childhood. I remember my dad playing Myst as a kid.
Yeah.
Let the past die.
Nope. Myst is
All right,
a really
Kylo.
good game.
Oh man. Well, yeah. So their live recording went on for about 2.5 hours, I'd say.
So, Kyle, you like beer just as much as I do, by the way. 'Cause
Yes.
it's at a brewery.
Yeah.
Cody, you're not much of a beer person,
No, sir.
but who all had the
Andrew is the biggest beer person.
in the world?
So,
He
so
loves
into
it,
dude.
He
Oh my
loves
gosh,
it.
I just love all of the. Yeah. Okay, no, I hate it
Probably,
actually.
yes. Thankfully, we're not doing that stupid rating system with alcoholic beverages.
Pretty much, yeah. When you guys told me that at first, I'm like, oh god, they've chosen the wrong man. You got the wrong guy.
But they actually had a special beer there called the 300, which the brewery makes, and they were selling it in celebration of GI 300th issue. Kyle, you got a chance to taste the 300. What do you? Because I don't normally like IPAs, and it's an IPA. So how would you rate the 300 beer?
Oh, I couldn't give it a rating. I liked it.
I did like it. Like I said, I don't like IPAs,
yeah.
but I did like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm not a big IPA drinker either. I prefer darker beers, but it wasn't so hoppy that I didn't like it. I could have drank another one. I only had one glass of it, but I could have definitely got more and enjoyed it. So
Likewise.
I approve of it. It was good.
I would definitely go back to Fulton's and have another 300 beer when it's not so crowded.
Yeah. Same. So when they had finished their recording, we met back up with Reiner and Cyril Vasquez. I just butchered that. Cyril Vasquez. Both of them took the four of us plus two other guys to the Game Informer office.
Yes, and I have to give like a huge thank you to Reiner, only because like he gave us a private tour. Like that was awesome and very kind of him to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Especially
very,
like, that being at their event.
Yeah, it was still going on when we left to do the tour. It was really for him and his company kind of thing, and he decided to give us a private tour of the GI office, which, by the way, too, which I thought was really cool of him to do, to spend so much time with us when he wasn't on the podcast. If he wasn't on the podcast, he was pretty much with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was like I said, he treated us like family. So yeah, I can't thank him enough.
Agreed.
Yeah. And real quick before, talking about family, before continuing, just shout out to Phil for meeting up with us before he had to go into work 20 minutes.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. Yeah,
So,
I feel sorry.
Yeah, Phil showed up to a brewery, did not drink, so props to him for not drinking before work, and then having to go into work while we're here in his city, and to have it and have
Work a
to
full
work.
shift like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we'll get into Phil later too.
Yeah, we'll get to
we'll
Phil.
get to Phil. Don't
so,
worry, Phil. You
you
listen
know-
to the show. We'll get to you soon.
So between Fulton and GI, it was, I don't know, what, half mile?
I say that's about right. Yeah.
About
half
right,
mile to
yeah.
a mile. How were you guys feeling walking? Like, what were you feeling?
I brought the wrong shoes.
I feel the same. Yes, that's
Okay.
a good answer.
I thought it was just crazy because Reiner and Vasquez were escorting us over to the offices, and I'm like, how far away is this place if we're just walking? And then it hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go to the GI office, and I just could not stop saying it to you guys. Like, I cannot believe we're about to tour this place because basically I've read their magazine since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it was, I think excitement and just pure joy hit me as we were heading there.
And
Like, I was looking at every
I don't
building,
know.
every door.
I think we should save the pure joy for. I think there's a certain item that you came across in there that might have classified as even greater pure joy. If we're being honest.
Yeah, I think heading there, I was looking at every door in every building. Like, is this it? Is this it? Is this it?
I was doing the
Is
same.
this it?
I was doing the exact
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of that.
Yeah. So we finally get there.
And it's like just a normal
And-
office building that
Oh yeah.
holds a bunch of other companies. I'll just say a whole bunch of other companies, like probably 5 or 6 companies. And Game Informer's just on one of the floors.
Yeah. It's I don't know. We get to the building,
We
hop in the
can't-
elevator, and just ride up.
Probably don't want to we can't walk through the whole thing. Maybe we should just each pick kind of like our favorite area or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that works. I'm
because-
sure collectively we have one area that we all just were in amazed.
I feel like
by.
we all have the
Agreed.
same area.
And-
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Because
Well, I know
the whole
the one area that we'll have to shout out, of course.
right.
but
But I
anyway.
will say, like,
So
the GI office, it just looks like a normal office, like you would any other company, which I thought was interesting.
Except awesome
Yeah.
because there's so much nerd stuff
Oh,
everywhere.
yes.
It's amazing.
Oh, yes.
It's like Nerdvana.
yeah. So, you ride the elevator up, doors open, and right in front of you is Game Informer in big bold letters on the window. And there it is. It's the office. Walk in, and like Karrington said, it looks like your typical office, but with gaming and nerdy stuff all over the place.
One thing I was not expecting, though, before we get into each of our favorite places, I thought they would have like a copy of the issue, like their earlier issues everywhere, but they actually had copies of their newer issues on the walls everywhere.
Yeah.
So if you can think of any recent issue within the past 2 years, it was probably on the wall somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So going around the table, what areas did you guys appreciate without I guess we could collectively talk about the vault.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
just say
that's the
let's
main
just
one.
let's just not talk about the vault as our favorite place.
Oh, shoot.
So minus the vault. What was your
Minus
favorite
the
thing
vault.
to see? Minus the vault.
Yeah, that's a fair way to
Okay.
put it. I'll go first. I think for me, I mean, there's so much cool stuff, but the room with all of the like there they had several issues of like older issues, but they were all like cataloged, and then they
Yeah.
had a lot of their stuff that they'd compiled from like getting pieces of a game before it was even finished to test and give their thoughts on. Just like I said, like Reiner was telling us when we were taking the tour, it's gaming history right there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
stuff that that nobody else has, and it's just super cool. So that I mean, and there was just boxes and boxes of this stuff that was all basically one of a kind things that, like I said, this just it was just really surreal to see something. It'd be like, oh my gosh, how much has that come through these doors that basically they've helped shape so many of the games that we know and love.
He mentioned about he pulled out a disc and wasn't it like Tony Hawk Pro Skater at 30% finish or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Something
yeah.
like that.
And it was just like
Something that
and he said it's completely different from the finished version of what
Yeah.
we've all played and known and come to love and have nostalgia for. And he's like, it's completely different than that game. And like that blew my
Yeah.
mind.
So, no, that was that was my favorite room for sure, just because there's so much history there. It's just really cool. But then I have to say, just as a side point, I think my other favorite memory was.
I know.
I know you're going.
Oh,
I
you know
know
where I'm
you're
going, Kyle. It's
The
so
graveyard.
funny. Okay. Well, no, when we go into this one room and there's this gigantic sword leaned up against the wall, and I think we all know which sword it is.
Yep,
Yes,
yep.
yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII, and Kyle's eyeballing it, and he keeps looking over at it, and then finally he's like, can I go over there and pick that up? And they're like, sure. He's like, really?
I will say too,
And
like
so,
the
you know,
look on
then
Ryan Reiner's face was just so much concern.
Just questioning it.
Yes.
And then, so Kyle, just basically levitates, if you will, over to there and picks this gigantic sword up that's actually real. It's like actually sharp. It's actually made of steel. It's crazy. And I was lucky enough to get a candid shot of him grinning like a fool, looking like some 3-year-old in a candy store holding this sword. It was a pretty great moment. Like, it's basically, that's like nerd happiness personified right there. In that moment, it was captured. So
Well, it's in the back. It's always in the background of them recording their podcast for YouTube, and I always eyeball it. Like, I wonder if that thing's real. And now I know.
I think that room was my favorite room, the podcast room, where they had everything set
Yeah.
up and where they record everything. It's just neat to see how they do their things compared to how we do ours and how other podcast people do theirs and everything. How it's all set up in one room and their lights and TVs and all that stuff that was really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say because that room is where they also film like the replay series and super replay series. So that was just like a weird moment to actually be in, like, oh my gosh, this is where they filmed that series. And so, that was my favorite room too. But just being a little different also. They also have this one closet. It is literally a graveyard.
Oh yeah.
that was crazy.
And this graveyard is just full of instruments from every rock band, every guitar hero, and everything that they have received that just means absolutely nothing, but is also part of history. It was just incredible to see. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where they keep all that stuff. And then Reiner pulled out this massive like press book that they had received. I don't remember what game it was for. He's like, yeah, we received this from so and so studio, and it's probably like a 600 or 700 page document. And then you look through it, everything is blank because it's a press thing that they had sent out, and he was just like, I don't understand why this is here, why they sent it out, but here it is. And I thought that was funny, and that's what this room was filled of, just history of like stuff like that, and like I said, all the rock band like guitars and Guitar Hero guitars and drums, all that stuff is just in this room. That's a graveyard.
Just littered all over the place.
Yeah. So that was, besides the replay room where they, film replay, super replay, and the podcast and stuff. That was probably my favorite room.
Yeah.
Besides
I agree.
the other thing.
The podcast room, scene behind the scenes where Leo sits, That was definitely cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this is
the-
where Leo sits. Leo Vader, the voice.
The thing that I really appreciated, I guess, was the kind of the last room that we looked at, where they recorded their Super Smash Brothers marathon.
Yes. Oh yes.
So, if you haven't checked it out, you go on YouTube. I think search for like Game Informer Super Smash Brothers Guinness World Record, and they literally stayed up for I think 36 hours straight playing Super Smash Brothers to get the Guinness World Record, and they recorded it all in this room, and they document just going being sleep deprived and just their journey going through it. It was incredible. I think it was Dan Riker, Tim Turry, Andrew Reiner, Ben Reeves, other editors are all kind of rotating through it. I didn't see that throughout the entire tour, and I was kind of looking out for it, and it was the very last room they showed us, and I was like, is that the room? Is that the room where you guys did the marathon? And Reiner's like, yeah, this is it here. And then they also had Riff Raff on.
Yes, I was gonna. If you weren't gonna get to it, I was definitely gonna get to it because he shared that story with us in that room.
Yeah,
which is a fantastic story. If you want to tell it, Kyle.
I mean, just go to YouTube and look up Game Informer Riff Raff, and you'll see the video of. I don't want to get too into.
Well, I just want to say
story
because Reiner had this really cool story. And if you want to watch the rest of it on YouTube, go right ahead. But like the lead up to it, because he said that they had heard like Riff Raff was this huge gamer. And they're like, yeah, we should have him come up to the office because if he loves games, we can have him to the office while he's here in town and while right as he's because he had a concert in the city of Minneapolis. So I guess they get Tim Turry to go pick him up, and I guess Tim had this like old beat up car. I don't remember if Reiner named the model and make of the car, but he's like it's this old car, and Riff Raff is just like he's kind of insulted by the fact that
that he's not being picked up in a
Hummer or limo or something. And so Tim Turry brings him back, and then Reiner asks him, so I hear you're a gamer. He's like, no, man, I'm not a gamer at all. And then everything you see on the YouTube video happens.
Yeah, definitely check that out. So yeah, I mean, I think that kind of just highlights everything within the office.
Mm-hmm. Besides
the
vault.
Go ahead. Well, one last thing.
Yeah.
We did see Mark Hamill's signature.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
That was
Even
cool.
though we did not meet Mark Hamill, like that's probably the closest we'll ever get to meeting him at the moment.
Yeah,
it's most likely true. Yeah.
So the vault.
There was a small story behind that, but I mean we can save that for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vault.
The vault.
Basically, it's a gigantic room filled with wall-to-wall video games and video game systems pretty much from the dawn of video games to present. It's pretty epic.
I think Reiner said it was 12 to 13,000 video games.
1,000.
Yeah.
12 to 13. Yeah. And so as soon as we walked into the office, you see the Game Informer logo, you walk into the office, the first thing I'm thinking of, okay, where's the replay room where they record replay? And the second thing I'm thinking of is, where's the vault?
Where's the vault? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was even better than I could ever imagine. I mean, if you're listening to our show, you obviously love games. Think of the most amazing collection you could ever think of and then multiply it by like 10.
Oh. I have a good analogy. Here. Not so much an analogy, but just a way to compare it in your mind. Okay, I'm sure that most people listening to this have seen Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Do you know Belle's reaction when the Beast reveals the library to her?
That's it.
That's exactly it.
That's basically it.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty much put it in perspective. It's like he opens the door and it's like,
But
what?
separated by console
Never seen
and
so
in
much.
alphabetical order was an OCD's dream.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's true.
And you can we've got some pictures of it on our Instagram that you can check out. Not like I probably got 3 or 4 pictures on there, but it's just like ceiling to wall to wall, just covered in video games, and some like I noticed quite a few of them were still wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
on replay, when they play a certain game, like, yeah, this game is still in the plastic. And whenever they say that on replay, they mean it, because there's
Yeah.
still games that when we went there that were still in their original casing in plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well. I would just also like to say that it's because of all the amazing stuff they had laying around that I ended up dropping some money on a limited edition Xbox
Oh,
that they had
yeah.
laying around in there, and I'm like, on the way home, I'm like, gosh, I've got to have one, and it was a decent price on eBay. So yes, Game Informer basically, it's in essence, it caused me to buy an Xbox like the very next day.
So,
no
real
regrets, though.
quick question. How was my sister's reaction, your wife, to when you told her, hey, honey, I have an Xbox?
I have the best wife in the world. I know what you're talking about, man. It was just like flowed through the conversation like butter.
Meaning
Just
she
like-
does not know.
Yep. No, it's actually absolutely my hand to God. I just told her, I was like, yeah, I went online, got on eBay, and got an Xbox, and so yeah, she's like, yep.
Did you tell her why? Like, hey, I
Okay.
saw this at the GI office. I had to get it. Oh,
No.
you didn't even tell her all that? Okay.
No.
She might find out eventually.
I figured I might pull. Well, no, I thought that was actually more of like if I start to struggle, like, well, you see, baby, what had happened? No, this is really cool, and I saw it there at the Game Informer office, and I had to have it, but I didn't have to even go to that point. She was just like, oh, okay.
Very nice.
So either she's cool with it,
Yeah.
or she's saving that for later.
Gotcha.
And you know how that, but I don't think so. I'm sure she seemed cool with it. Like I said, we're both, we're not weird like that. I'm always been, I mean, now obviously if you were to go out and spend like, a huge amount of money, but if it's, I've always been really cool with her. Like if she wants something and she's like, I've been looking at it for a while, I want it. And I'm just like, go for it, get it. So it usually makes it pretty smooth when somebody wants something, as long as it's not completely out of this world. Most of the time, we're pretty good about regulating ourselves. Like if it's something that's just like way out of line for like what our budget can handle, then we just don't. But
Fair enough. Yeah, that vault.
but
Baby, that vault.
Super. I didn't realize. I mean, it is a vault because he walked up to the door and he had to scan his badge to even get access to it.
Oh, yeah.
Open the door and just in awe. That's all I can say. In awe. Thousands and thousands of video games just all over the place. Any game you could think of is probably sitting
It is
there.
probably sitting in there.
somewhere.
Which is kind of funny, too,
Yeah.
because it's just sitting in the middle. So there's actually 2 floors to the GI office. It's on this, I won't say, it's on the 2nd floor, but like you would never guess. It just looks like a closet, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what. You wouldn't really realize what it is unless you open the door. So yeah, is there anything else you guys want to throw in there about the office?
No. I mean, if there's any Game Informer fans out there listening, if you have any questions about, a certain person's desk or anything regarding the GA office, just hit us up. We saw it and we can answer it.
Awesome. So we left and took 2-hour nap.
That sounds about right. About 1 hour and a half, 2 hour nap at the hotel.
yeah,
Because we are exhausted at this point.
Oh, yeah.
All of us have probably had
Just-
at max 2 to 3 hours of sleep at this point.
and yeah, since we'd been up, like I don't know, it varied, but between like getting up at 6 or 7 o'clock on Friday morning and being awake almost consistently until
6
probably
or 7
about
o'clock
6 o'clock.
Saturday evening.
Yeah, so almost maybe a couple hours sleep at most in a 24-hour period. It was
Yeah.
pretty brutal.
We take our nap and we head over to Nolos Kitchen and meet up with Phil.
Oh, Phil.
Our man Phil.
Dude, Phil is the man. Let's just say that real quick. Phil is the
He was awesome,
man.
yeah.
And, whenever, even privately, whenever we talk about Phil, we're like, yeah, Rhino's cool and all, but Phil, he's the main attraction whenever we play online.
Oh dang.
It's true, though. Kyle, am I wrong when I say that?
Listen, man, I'm not about that,
Yeah, we ain't taking
I'm
sides
not,
like that,
I'm not
Carrington.
saying one person's better than the other here.
No, they're both awesome.
But we definitely
They're
got
equally
the hook up.
amazing. Yeah, they both were just incredible.
Yeah, they
So when you,
Phil.
I would say real quick, like, when you look up Nolos, if you live in the Minnesota area, anywhere close by, within, if you can get to Minnesota and you went looking for a place to eat, Nolos is definitely the place to go to. Because, it looks super upscale, but, you're not going to pay that kind of price, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But the food is fantastic. Oh, gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And our man Phil hooked us up because he's, like I said, Phil is the man. He's in charge of the
Yeah.
kitchen. He's the man.
Yeah, we definitely got treated like a royalty, I would say. I'd never had an In-N-Out burger, and they like to create their burger similar to the way In-N-Out burger is, and I gotta say it was incredible.
And I think you missed the best part too, because as soon as we show up, our appetizers were already cooking. We didn't even order
yeah.
appetizers. And Reiner had joined
Yeah.
us too for dinner, which was really cool of him to do because
He's got a family.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that was really cool for him to take a little bit more time out of that he could be spending with his family to spend with us. So, yeah, that really meant a lot.
Yeah.
So it's the four of us and plus Reiner, and Phil is in the back doing his thing, working his stuff, cooking us food. Those wings were amazing, and so are those turkey meatballs.
Yep.
And I don't like alternatives usually when it comes to meat, like turkey meatballs.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are fantastic.
Yeah, same way. But they were excellent.
Yeah.
I like
They were
turkey
super
meatballs.
good. Like,
I like turkey meatballs. Screw you.
Yeah, yeah.
No, get out of here, you commie. Okay, meatballs were meant to be made out of
It's
cow.
normal.
I'll have you know.
Yeah, they were super good. Everything was really good, and I appreciate. He worked a full day after he got off work. He hung
Yeah.
out with us. We had a beer and talked, and he gave us a tour of the kitchen and the basement bar downstairs. Again, really appreciate the hospitality between Reiner and Phil. First time Minneapolis visitors.
Exactly. And if
Yeah,
I know Phil's listening, and I don't know about you guys, but I ordered all the food as if I was paying for it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Phil comes out of nowhere and takes care of the bill. So Phil, I know you're listening. I know we've said it already, but thank you so much for taking care of that bill. That was so nice of you.
No, Phil's
Very much appreciate
as Carrington says, Phil's the man.
Phil
that's for sure.
is the man. So Saturday night ends. We briefly stopped by Mall of America just to check it out on Sunday. Huge place. It's just in awe of how big that place is.
I could not believe how. And then also, I know we've talked about Reiner and Phil so much. They spent time with us again at Mall of America. Took time out of their day to come spend it with
Out
us
of their
at Mall
Sunday.
of America. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I said. I know we keep harping on it, so not beating a dead horse. But yeah, it was just incredible how hospitable they were. I can't ever thank them enough.
And we didn't ask them to come with us. We're like, hey, we're gonna stop by the Mall of America. They're like, okay, we'll join you. We're like, okay.
Yeah. That was awesome.
But yeah.
Just the whole experience in general was awesome. After we go to Mall of America, we start our trek home.
And I will say, we only got through not even a third of Mall of America.
We didn't scratch the
I don't
surface,
think
dude.
we scratched the surface.
We hit the
with it.
bottom floor.
We went to like 3
We hit
stores.
Think about it.
That was it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 stores, and then we checked out the little amusement park thing in the center, and that was about it.
Yep.
Because it is so incredibly big. And I think if Phil and Reiner were correct, they said it takes about a mile to go around just one time. And then there's 4 floors of that filled with nothing but stores.
Yeah.
And restaurants. There's a lot
And
of
restaurants, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And an aquarium in the basement.
Apparently.
Yeah. And it wasn't there like a go-kart track in there too? And an
I don't
arcade?
know. There was
There's
putt-putt.
all kinds of stuff. There's putt-putt. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in that
Yeah.
place.
It's just crazy. Crazy. I don't know. It's like a mecca. A mecca mall.
Yeah, for real.
And then we
And I
drove.
think, and then we drove.
And
back
drove,
home.
and
Yep.
drove.
So,
But wait, go ahead, Kyle. I know where you're going.
same direction as you.
And we went to a
Yeah,
fancy
go for it.
McDonald's. And
So we stopped back at Fancy McDonald's. Just kind of taking a break there. Go up to the counter to the 12-year-old cashier. Literally, I think
I'm
he was
pretty
12.
sure child labor laws may have been broken that
Yeah.
day.
And ask them. You know, they're displaying Shamrock Shakes, and I love Shamrock Shakes, and I say, hey, I want a Shamrock Shake. Well, can I get one? Sorry, was our shake machines
Yeah.
broken?
Yeah.
So, all right, that's fine.
And which, by
So
the
a little
way,
disappointed.
I feel like McDonald's, like whenever you like actually want something, whether it be ice cream or shakes, the machine is always broken.
It's something, yeah.
It's because they don't want to make it, so they just go back there, pull out the hammer, and they're like, smash.
Yeah,
It's
just
like, sorry,
destroy
guys,
it.
it's broken.
It's like, all right, so that's fine. So we keep driving. I think we stopped for dinner in Indianapolis or like Indiana area.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was around like Lawrenceburg or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys pick Arby's, and that's fine. I go into McDonald's next door, and Cody's goes in with me, and we both want Shamrock Shakes. And Cody says wise words. The machine's probably broken here too. And I said, "Curse you, Cody."
My bad.
And so I go to order a Shamrock Shake, and yeah, their machine's broken. It's like, what are the chances? Like, hundreds of miles apart, both machines are broken. I just want one thing, like literally, and it's the thing they're featuring this month. Like, that's bad if you know, with St. Patty's Day coming up, and you're featuring Shamrock Shakes, and your machines are broken at 2 different McDonald's.
Did you you end up finally getting one like the next day or something, right? For like after work or something?
No,
wasn't it?
actually,
I did.
so, yeah,
Very
Cody
nice,
got
very
one.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's coding, yeah.
I waited until, you know, it kind of left my mind. I was tired Monday. I wanted to get home, go to sleep. Tuesday and Wednesday, we were super busy. Yesterday, it crossed my mind. I was going to stop, and I didn't. So today, on my way home from work, I was like, all right, I'm going to stop by McDonald's and get a Shamrock
The
Shake.
machine's down.
Let me guess, you went up to the counter and like you were shaking and
I was
scratching your arm. You're
was
like, I need it, man.
so
I need
nervous.
it.
I went through the drive-thru, and
Okay.
I was like, "Can I get a Shamrock Shake?" We're not selling them here.
What?
And I didn't even say anything. I said, "All right." So I cut in front of somebody in the drive-thru, and I think they're thinking I'm cutting in front of, like, to get in line. I just cut in front, just leave the parking lot. Get home, pick up Jen, and we head to Walmart, and there's another McDonald's, and finally, I finally go into a line there, and I, order a Shamrock Shake. We don't have them here.
What?
What? Oh my gosh, dude, you've been denied so hard.
I am 0-4 for Shamrock Shakes.
Have you told Jen this story? Like, does she feel bad for you at this point?
Yes, she laughed at me in the drive.
That's amazing.
How are there 4 McDonald's that are not selling Shamrock Shakes? 4 McDonald's in a row that I go to that are not selling Shamrock Shakes. I guess the plus side to it is I did get some Szechuan sauce. It wasn't that good.
You might be able to like file some type of like I don't know, national or like racial complaint, because I mean you do kind of have the red hair and everything. You look pretty Irish, so
I thought I was
kinda
saying something, but
leprechaun-y.
I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. Cody got his. I'm determined to get one by the end of this
I'll grab one
weekend.
tomorrow after work.
So I'll keep you guys updated.
Cody's gonna like send you a
Send it
picture
to
and be
me.
like, "What's up, man?"
Send it to me in the mail or something. I don't care if it's melted. I'll refreeze it or something. But yeah.
Which, by the way,
So, yeah.
the most important thing about this entire trip, which we have skipped over completely, this is the first time we have seen each other all in person as a podcast, and Kyle and Andrew, it's the first time you guys have met in person.
Yep. That is true.
True story.
There's a lot of first meets that trip.
Yep.
Definitely a lot. But yeah, that's our trip to Indianapolis. That's definitely a lot of the highlights.
Indianapolis.
Or Minneapolis.
A little beyond
Listen,
that.
just a little bit further.
Dude, I'm so tired right now.
It's understandable. I'm still exhausted from the weekend, and it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
This is
dead.
definitely our longest episode.
Oh yeah.
So
I've been taking long naps.
let's wrap it
It's
up there.
ridiculous.
Yep.
If you have any other questions regarding the trip, you can tweet them at us or email it to us. But I
And
think
we
we're
will
going to wrap
answer
the
them.
episode up there.
It sounds about good, and we are looking to go back, hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah. Definitely cool. So you can check out our social networks. Check out our store. We have shirts, wristbands, shenanigans, doodads, cool things on there that Spreadshirt, Real Dudes Podcast. You
Yep.
can get there through our website, www.realdudespodcast.com. We appreciate our Patreons, supporting us. Again, realdudespodcast.com/Patreon will get you more information on how to be part of our group. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RealDudes_pod, Facebook and Instagram, Real Dudes Podcast. And then be sure to email us if you have any questions you want us to discuss on the show. You want us to do another video game versus, any suggestions for that, email us at podcast@realdudespodcast.com. And check us out on Twitch and YouTube. And that's all that I have. Any last words, gentlemen?
Nope.
Good night and good luck.
All right, everyone. And the wise words that Carrington says, have a rad day.